Good evening. Welcome to episode 139. It feels like forever ago that we
It's
had
been
a
a while.
podcast. It's been a while. What's happened since the last podcast? Let's see. We lost to Porto. We got dumped out of the Champions League. Oscar got engaged, right? I don't think we've been on since you got engaged, have we?
Nope.
I
Bachelor
don't think so.
party for Kenny.
Yeah,
Who's
we went on a
Oscar?
bachelor. We went on a bachelor party for Kenny.
Kenny put on a
we-
Tom Brady jersey.
Yeah, Kenny put on a Tom Brady jersey, much to his discontent, and
So
and much to
basically,
Jay's
bottom line
excitement.
is you haven't been on since we had bad results.
Yeah.
True, and we seem to be back on the train. But I will say that the podcast the week after the Porto game may have contributed to my frustrations, but after that there was work meetings and personal things which delayed some of our abilities to be on here. But we're back, and I mean, no one can blame us for not being on during bad results. We haven't had a title since we started this podcast, and we've been doing it for 3 years. So we've been riding that ship for a long time. So we if any, are not here to hide from bad results. Episode 139, nearing the finish line, gentlemen. We could be close to our first title since we have started the podcast. This podcast, it's been a lot of frustration and disappointment since we've started, but we are close. Very close. We got one hand on the title. 2 games remaining. We need one win, depending on how other results go. Today we will talk about Portimonense 1, Benfica 5. A result that maybe, I'm not sure it really tells the story of the game. We will talk about Benfica's current state, if Benfica is to win the title, which we hope. Do you guys consider it a successful first season for Roger Schmidt and his team, given what we've accomplished so far? We will talk about Grimaldo. A lot of news this week about Grimaldo. He officially announced his departure at the end of the season to Bayer Leverkusen. I got a couple questions there for you guys, but we'll talk about that and the timing of it, and all that fun stuff. And then big match this weekend, Sunday. Benfica goes to our noisy neighbors. And as Billy has there in his background, could it be reserved? It would be nice to celebrate in our rival stadium. But the fortunate piece is, even if we weren't able to come away with the win, we have a last match against Santa Clara at home, which should hopefully be the dagger for the clinching of the title, but we'll get there soon. For those of you tuning in, I know it's been a while. I'm sure you guys got a lot to talk about and to share with us. So please join the conversation. Add your thoughts in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, add your comments and join the conversation. If you're watching on Twitter, the comments don't come through anymore because of Periscope. So if you don't mind, jump over to YouTube or our Facebook page and you can join the conversation as well. And lastly, para a malta que esteja a ver em português, isto aqui é o nosso podcast em inglês, obviamente por causa do horário, porque isto não é um horário benéfico para a malta que esteja em Portugal. Por isso, mas esteja à vontade de participar aqui neste nosso podcast. Podem deixar os vossos comentários em português ou em inglês, como quiserem. Todos percebemos português, por isso poderemos abordar as vossas opiniões e os vossos comentários durante o podcast. Por isso, esteja à vontade e não se esqueçam de partilhar aqui este nosso direto para chegarmos a mais benfiquistas espalhados pelo mundo. Gentlemen, Portimonense 1, Benfica 5. Lineup, for the most part, picks itself again. Audi at the back, Freddie at the right back position. Ba was on the bench, came in later on, but still doesn't seem to be 100%, so I'm not too concerned with that option. Tony in the back, Moratu in place of Otamendi, Grimaldo in the left, Neres, Chiquinho, Jon Snow, Jean Mario, Rafa, and Gonçalo Ramos at the top. Oscar, I'll start with you. A game that, I mean, statistically, right, 5-1. They could have made it 2-2 at some point, but how did you see this game? Do you think that the score line itself is a little bit not, I guess, aligning with what we saw in the match, or do you think it aligned perfectly? And did you
No,
expect
I
more
think it
difficult?
was one dimensional. I think this game was because we scored early. It helped us basically got a confidence, and just from there on, I think it was one dimensional. Portimonense, I actually thought it was going to be a tough game. I thought because Portimonense is giving the top guys a challenge, including Porto, and even though they're their second team, they give them a hard time with this recent game against them. So I thought it was going to be a tough game. I thought it was going to be one of those games that we could have lost points because of our recent form, and then we're playing away, and Portuguese was going to give it all. But man, we scored that goal by Grimaldo early, opened the gates. So I think it was one of those games that there's nothing. I mean, we had 7 clear chances to score. We missed like 4 clear chances. It was like we could have been. It could have been more than 5. Portimonense had probably 1 or 2 chances all game. And so this game, I'm just impressed with some of the players. They're back in form. João Neves surprised me tremendously. The kid came into the lineup, and he now is playing with confidence. It's good to see this towards the end of the season that we got our form back.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if there was a time for us to get back in form, it was now in crunch time because we went through a period there where things were a little bit rocky. Jay, do you agree with the scoreline in the sense of, it was one-way traffic? I mean, you look at the stats here, right? 26 shots against 6. They had 1 shot on target. We had 11. Possession-wise, 58-42. I know that it was 3-1 for most of the game, and then Musa got 2 goals with 2 minutes left late. I think 2 easy ones, one maybe more easy than the other, shouldn't have happened. But do you agree with the scoreline? And I'll ask you is, given how things have progressed, right? Gonçalo Guedes is back in the squad. He's been back for a couple of weeks. Are you surprised to not see him more regularly, getting more minutes?
Regarding Gids, I think they're kind of still slowing him, like bringing him into the team. We've only seen him play like the last few, like 10, 15 minutes of the game. And we also, that's when Ned has also started to play out of his mind. I think he's on a little streak himself as we speak. So am I surprised? Not really. I think the team that we have out there, especially with little Jon Snow playing in the midfield, I think that we found his spot there. I'm a big believer in the kid. I know it's only a few games, but I think he's impacted our midfield a little bit. Playing, I'm not saying that he's very comparable to Enzo, but he has like a similar style, I would say. I know Chicão played out of his mind, and he has had a great season. But I think John kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but like I think he goes into he attacks more. I feel like he takes more chances in the midfield. I think Chicão's more reserved. I think he likes to do the simple passes. But yeah, as far regarding the question that you asked about Gids, I think Nades has been playing out of his mind, and I think maybe João Mario has fallen off a little bit, and maybe Gids can probably fall in there, but I think it's just kind of easing him back from injury. He does have an injury history, so I think that's the concern there. And he's also not our player as well, so I don't know if there was some rumblings from Wolverhampton to not play him as much or any of that. Like, I don't know. As far as the game, I agree with Oscar. I thought the game was in hand. I think I even wrote on the text game over at halftime. I thought that Benfica had control. We got the early goal. This game was like similar to one of those games that we saw in the beginning of the season where we get that early goal, we control the game. It just didn't seem like we were going to lose this game at any point. Muratu makes an unexcusable. I thought he had I didn't think he had his best game either overall, but he had a whiff on that clearance, and their player buried it past Odie. So, I mean, I just thought that the game was in control. I thought we had possession. I thought this game was ours right from the beginning, and getting that early goal from Grimaldo was also huge. At first, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't think that was fully in, but we got the call. So
I didn't think so either.
We rolled with it, and we kind of went from there. We did get 2 gimmies at the end, Musa buried him, was in the right spot at the right time. So it was good to see him kind of get on the score sheet again. Seems like a super sub coming on. Kind of reminds me of Raul Jimenez when he used to come in back in the game, back in the day. So, yeah, I thought it was a good performance, and I'm expecting big things this weekend. So,
Bill, Oscar, did you think that ball went in?
I mean, from the replays that I saw, I mean, you can't tell his goal line.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to tell if it's over. But the problem is they called it a goal on the field.
Correct. Yeah,
so they need clear evidence to reverse it. So it was impossible.
Right.
It was never going to get called.
But I saw some pictures of what some shadow that there's like.
Yeah, I read a comment about like the geometry of where the sun isn't the right place.
But I saw a clear line of light between the post and the ball.
Correct, but it's all dependent on where the sun is.
Yeah, the angle.
I failed geometry 3 times, so I'm not the right one to give you that answer.
Well, the thing is, you can't know either in or out. But I mean, we had one goal that basically lost our campeonato with Vitor Bahia back in the day that was not called in, and that looked like it was in.
That was way in.
Yeah, so this one, I'm like, I don't get why we don't have goal line technology. Like we have VAR now, we should have goal line technology. It can't be that expensive, but yeah, one of these things. It's you don't know. I just don't know.
And one of those situations could, like you said, right, could dictate the season, right? I think it was 2 years ago, or right the year before that the EPL got goal line technology. Aston Villa had a goal that went in their net and it wasn't counted, and that goal saved them from being relegated. Right, so like that one moment can be a differentiator for.
But think about it. It saved Aston Villa, but screw somebody else.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Right, so like that one goal Aston Villa could have been the one going down, and they stayed up, right, and someone else because of that goal ended up going down. So. Yeah, I agree. I'm surprised that we don't have it in Portugal. Obviously, it's a monetary investment, a significant one, and I think obviously the league would have to foot that bill, because I can't imagine, the Portimonenses of the world, that. I mean, I would probably even say anyone that's out of the top 6.
I was about to say, think about the teams coming up, right? Like. You have the teams coming from the second, like it's not a huge cash influx like it is in the EPL, right?
Yeah.
Like having to foot the bill to then install that for maybe only one season, because a lot of the times they come up and go right back down. Like, I can't imagine the teams being willing to pay it.
Yeah, Bill, what were
your... like a lot of these fields already feel the Seleção. Like we've had the Seleção playing shops, like so a lot of these fields like host the Seleção.
When was the last time the Seleção went to shops?
I know that was the worst example.
Ronaldo's
how long ago was that?
99% of the games are either in Lisboa or no Porto. That's it. Like they don't go anywhere else.
Leiria sometimes, or Coimbra, Aveiro. Yeah, so I mean, there's select fields, but yeah, I agree. I think it would obviously be a significant investment, but they just announced next year that the female league in Portugal will have VAR. So it's interesting that they've been able to invest. Obviously, it's a different organization, but being able to invest in VAR for the females, and not be able to have goal line technology, like the second division doesn't have VAR, right? Which is interesting. Whereas like you look at the championship, they have it, right? So it's obviously a significant difference. Bill, thoughts on the game? And Musa grabbed 2 goals late, 87th, 89th minute. 2 fortunate, I guess, poacher goals, right? He happened to be in the right spot.
Striker goal.
He's got, I saw a stat today, which was like he averages a goal every like 84 minutes, which is impressive. But what were your thoughts on the game? And do you think Musa's a guy that, with more time, with more confidence, could be added value to this team next year? Or do you think he's run his course?
As far as the game, I think these guys have touched on it for the most part. I think it was a game that was never really in doubt, even though Portimonense got that goal to make it 2-1. I don't think we ever were like shaky and like, oh shit, here we go. They scored. We came right back down and scored. I think within a few minutes, it was like 3 or 4 minutes later we scored. And then, I mean, the 2 fortunate goals at the end, or I would say the 1 fortunate goal. I think the keeper essentially handed it to Musa on his foot. But it was a game that we score early, and we've seen it plenty of times this season where if we get a goal in those first 10, 15 minutes, then we kind of slow the play down a bit and dictate the pace of the game. We have the lead, and we're not going to kind of push it at the pace that we started the game. I mean, the pace these guys were going at to start the game was fucking crazy. Like I feel like in the first 20 minutes, we could have had like 3 or 4. Yeah. We had 1 disallowed, right? I think it was Jean Mario. Right,
yeah,
Jean Mario goal was offsides. Yeah, I mean, it could have easily been 2 or 3 before.
Someone whiffed it before he was offsides, but
yeah, well, how
he's not on camera. He's not on camera.
He just went off camera. Oh, how convenient.
Oh shit, he's back. I hope he didn't hear us.
Hey, Ramos whiffed the ball before Jean Mario.
Ramos scored a beautiful goal to that game.
Yeah, but he missed one right before one of the goals.
But he whiffed one. In the 6 he whiffed, but it's okay.
You guys expect when it comes to Ramos, you guys expect perfection.
Seferovic score how many chances?
He can score 8 goals, but you guys will talk about the one that he missed.
Yes, I agree with you.
He missed, especially if he's inside the 6. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that I know. You guys are the biggest haters on him, so it's all good. Keep going. Keep going.
We got to create some friction on the podcast. We can't all agree.
I'm just glad he scored again. How many games?
It was I know 7.
He definitely needed 1.
7, yeah.
And
hopefully now
he hit off the post.
I was about to say that he had a rocket.
That shot that he had was nice. Hopefully that kickstarted his engine to bury a few against Sporting this weekend.
Yeah,
I mean, he did it. He did in the first leg, so let's see.
I just know that he scores in big moments. He's a big time player. He scores in big moments.
Let's see. Sunday, we'll talk Sunday.
Yeah, that's the biggest moment of the season, so we'll see. As far as Musa, I think he, given the opportunity, I think he can be a quality striker. I don't know. I mean, he's still young, and we haven't seen a lot of him, so I don't know if he's like your top line striker, or if he's one of those players where he's a good like rotational striker to have, or like super sub type of player. But going into next season, if we're thinking about it, I think Ramos is most likely sold this summer. So he might have his opportunity in the preseason, depending on if we bring anyone else in to show what he has. I think he's a very different striker than Ramos, right? I think he's more of like your prototypical number 9, right? Tall, he's good in the air. He's good with his back to the net, whereas Ramos is going to drop a little, get involved and play more. So it's different players, but I think he can definitely be serviceable to Benfica. I just don't know if he's that number 1, like your top of the line striker, 30, 40 goals kind of striker. I don't know if he's that.
I don't think you're going to, Jay, before you jump in, I don't think there's any striker in Portugal that's going to give you 30, 40 goals. I mean, when was the last one that gave you 30, 40 goals in Portugal?
Jonas.
Apart from
in the league, yeah.
Gardel.
No, well, not in the league. Obviously not.
But in overall, I mean, we had
across all competitions.
We had Darwin last year. We have Ramos this year. Yeah,
Ramos was pretty.
He might be there already.
I don't
know.
All
competitions, Ramos might be there.
I don't know about you guys, but yeah, Lietzen, good calls, Joaquin. But we had
Gardel is the one that comes to mind straight away.
We had a midfielder over 30 goals.
The thing I want to bring about, so like I wasn't a big Musa guy, but he's kind of proved himself a little bit, right?
Is he growing on you?
He's growing a little bit on me. You know, I can't, but I don't think he's a player that fits Roger's scheme for like.
I agree with that.
I don't think he's
a very different player.
He fits his scheme because he runs, right? He hustles,
but he gives you a different alternative,
right? And I think that Musa could probably, like, I'm not comparing him to Oscar Cardozo, but he resembles him, right? He's like one of those tall strikers, not that, even though he did show some speed in that one of his goals. but he's just one of those players that he holds the ball up, kind of gathers the team to kind of push up a little bit, and kind of works his way in there and finds the right spots and buries it. I feel like that's the thing that might knock him. I could see him being, if we sell Remus, I can see him being in the starting lineup, but I also can see him being subbed out every game in the 70th, 60th minute because he runs out of gas. That's just me personally on how I see Musa. Could he prove me wrong and kind of have like work on his physical aspect of his game? Maybe like his cardio. But yeah, maybe. But like, I just don't know. I don't see him hustling like Remus does, or playing the same similar style that Remus does. Like Roger likes his number 9 to play.
If Roger's our coach next year, he does not. Nobody comes out before the 85th minute, so you're fine. You don't worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're two different strikers, right? Gonçalo Ramos is a very mobile striker. He's not your typical 9. He's the first guy to press the ball. And I think because of his mobility, we saw him gas out in the last 7 to 10 games, right? Like he's just very leggy, which is expected, right? Like he runs his ass off, right? Like in terms of covering ground, he helps a lot. Defensively, he helps a lot, right? And you're not going to be able to sustain that for a long period of time. The problem is that our options off the bench don't have a similar style as him, right? Like you said. So like I've been a fan of Musa. I thought he did well at Boavista. I thought that with a team like Benfica, I thought he could be a very good value to the team. Obviously, he hasn't had too many minutes. He's got 11 goals and 2 assists in 39 appearances across all competitions. He's only played 1,065 minutes in comparison to like Neres has 12 goals, almost 3,000 minutes. Rafa's got 13 goals, almost 3,600 minutes. João Mario's got 14 goals, 4,100 minutes, right? So like significantly less from everyone else. But I don't know if I agree with you, Bill, in the sense of could he be the starter next year? Because like I think it was Jay that said it, right? I don't think he fits Roger Schmidt's philosophy of how he likes to play, right? Because he likes someone that can press high, right? So I think he's good value because he gives you a different option off the bench, right? Because when I think of like strikers, like for example, I forgot who I was talking to about it this weekend. Arsenal, for example, they have Gabi Jesus and Nketiah, right? And you take one off to put the other one in, and they're exactly carbon copy of each other, right? Like they do the same thing. So you take one off, you put another one in, and you're not changing the game, right? So the only way I see Musa being a starter is if he goes to 2 strikers, or if he alternates how he approaches the game with his tactics, which I'd be very surprised to see.
Yeah.
So you don't see Musa pressing high?
I do, but I don't see him doing it at the same level that Gonçalo Ramos does. Does that mean that he can't work it into him over the offseason? 100% he can. Right now, we don't see that, right? Because that's not his style. But could he get it out of him? 100%. But I think right now he can't. But I do think he presses more than maybe he gets credit for. I agree with your perception there, Oscar. But I think obviously you can't compare the two.
I think he's done enough this year with the minutes he's played to deserve a chance.
I agree.
A chance. And then like a guy of like, I mean, he hasn't had a chance. He's played, like we talk about, guys coming off the bench and they need a few consecutive games in order to show that, getting the team. The guy's been showing it without getting consecutive games. He's been showing it playing only the last 10 minutes of a game and comes in and he scores his goal. So his confidence is there. He deserves a chance. Nothing else.
Don't you like the fact that he's kind of like our super sub? Like,
no, because nobody wants
having a player come off the bench and be like, you know what, we have an opportunity. This guy gives us an opportunity.
I get your point, but like we said the same thing about Geddes, but Geddes is the player that like you can't play. Nobody in their right mind is going to be. I'm happy being a super sub. They want more, right? And if Musa deserves more, he's going to expect more. If he doesn't get more, that's when he goes, okay, I'm out.
So can I ask you a question, Oscar? Yeah, when we had, I think it was Mitroglou, we had
Lehman, and
Jonas, and we had Jimenez, and Jimenez was always coming off the bench.
And then he left.
And then he left.
He left. You didn't like him, man.
But he was scoring goals for us.
Right.
But he left. He was not. You want to be a starter. You want
to be a starter. And we still got 40 million for him.
Yeah, I get it, because that was one of those the Luis Figoreira project that said, I'm going to sell this guy the highest player to be sold in Benfica. But that's besides the point. But he showed potential. He showed that he could do it, and we didn't have, because we had two super starters in front of him. So the guy didn't want to be a super sub. He was a super sub because he was good, but he didn't want to be a super sub. That's why he left. He didn't want to stay.
I don't think any player wants to be a sub.
I know, but then we can't expect Musa to be happy being a super sub.
But you have to accept your role as part of the team. And this year, his role was coming off the bench and supplying goals when needed.
Correct.
And I also want to say one thing. I actually agree with Chico Marcelino, where Musa does come in towards the end of the games.
I get it.
Most of these games are already out of hand. Most of these times, the other team is trying to score,
or we're trying to score a goal to tie it up, or come back.
And
into
then
the game.
he gets one of those gimmies. And I'm not faulting that for Musa. At the same time, you still have to be at the right spot at the right time, right? You still have to be in that location. I just feel like I know he's scoring goals, and I'm happy, but at the same time, you kind of have to look at that in the like. You kind of have to look at that a little bit and be like, would he be able to do this if he is a starter?
All right. So now I have a question for you, Jay.
But also coming in,
he also deserves a chance to kind of go out, like play those minutes and see if he can do it or not as well.
I now have a question for you, Jay. Now, believe me, Ramos has changed my mind. Ramos is one of the top players this year, and that's why
Matador.
Yeah, fine, but he was 6 games with a dry spell, right? If it was anybody else, not somebody that was being looked at by Manchester United, Musa would have deserved a chance there, right? 6 games without scoring a goal for a striker. That's a dry spell. I get it.
I'm gonna play Oscar. How many times has Ronaldo had dry spells?
Yeah, and how many times I asked for him to be put on the bench?
I'll play your.
And then those same plays that Ronaldo was dry spelling, I told him stay on the bench. That's exactly what I said.
Not in his prime. Not in his prime. You wouldn't say that.
No, not in his prime.
In his prime, he never went 6 games.
There was times that he went on dry spells. Come on,
not 6 games.
Yeah, dude.
I bet I could do some research and I'll find 5 or 6 game span that he went on a dry spell.
That's fine, but the thing is, like, Ronaldo was Real Madrid paid 100 million for him. Ramos came from the Seychelles, so it's a big difference.
And Benfica's gonna get 100 million for him too.
I get it, but I think when it comes, if it wasn't for Ramos, if it was somebody else, if it was Cardoso, you're been saying 6 games, sit him down, let's get somebody else that's been actually scoring goals when he comes in.
Look, I wasn't even. Look, I will tell you, Mike probably knows better than all of you about this. I wasn't a huge Oscar Cardoso fan.
I was a big fan of his.
I thought that sometimes he wasn't, like, to me, he wasn't the greatest, but like that dude scored some fucking nasty goals. And he scored some timely goals. And against
big games.
I would take him.
Crucial.
I would take him in this Sparta game over Ramos.
100%.
That guy dominated Sparta.
Dude, at Alvalade, that was like his training ground.
Cardoso was to us against Sporting like Lietzen was to Sporting against us.
Yeah.
It was an automatic goal every time.
And the thing is, like, he scored against Porto, he scored against Sporting. It doesn't matter what the team was. The guy had like cold veins. He did not tremia. So that's why I liked about him. And I
just quickly to go back.
Yeah.
Just quickly to go back to the Chico comment, right? It's different, the first 15 and the last 15. I agree to that to an extent. Like, as a sub, it's so hard to come in and to have any kind of impact on a game, right? Like, it for most players, like, you have to build into the game, and it takes a little bit, like, to come in and have, no matter who you're playing, what the circumstances are, like, to come in and have an impact like he's had in games, it's impressive, right? To say the least. But I do agree to an extent that last 15 is different than first 15. But you also have to give him credit. Like, there's not many players that are going to come in and have, regardless of position, regardless of anything, of everything else, like, have any kind of impact on a game. Like, it's not very often that a sub comes in and has any kind of impact in the game, unless it's like very early on.
I'm gonna touch on Fabio Albano's comment, right? He doesn't think that he has the quality to be a Benfica starter. we all here, including 99.999% of the people, said it.
Same thing.
Chiquinho, right? Yeah. Everybody here said it about Chiquinho. Now Chiquinho starts, and he actually does phenomenal. And everybody's like, she's on or whatever. Chicão.
Yeah, but do you think? Like, I think the Chiquinho one is I don't know. He's one of those that I think we're kind of looking over the stars when it comes to, right? Like, I was having a conversation with Lemeirão, I think 2 weeks ago, where I said, and maybe you guys don't agree with me, but in a squad at a club like Benfica, a squad that's put together properly with depth, with quality, and obviously I'm not talking depth like Manchester City, right? Like, realistically, in terms of what we're capable of, I don't think Chiquinho is even a player for the bench. Is he playing well this year? Yes. Do I think he's playing above his capacity? I think so, because when you look at his career, and again, everyone changes, different environment, different coaches, different tactics, right? Like, and this could be really who Chiquinho is. Do I think it is? No, but he could prove me wrong if he does it for another year. But when you look at his career, right, like, he was never an automatic in anywhere he went, right? He went to Braga. He wasn't able to establish himself there. The only place that he was able to establish himself as a regular was at Moreirense, and he played well at Moreirense.
Right. So one of our best players ever is Simão Sabrosa. Yep. Was he able to establish himself anywhere else other than Benfica?
Sporting.
That was early years. He left.
But where did he go after?
Barcelona, Atletico Madrid.
You can't compare the level from Benfica to Atletico.
He
did well at Atletico.
No, he didn't. He got sold right away, or in Prestado, whatever it was. Like, he was at the top of his career, and plus you can't compare Chiquinho to Simão. But so you have to compare smaller teams to bigger teams.
But it's a different jump. But it was a different jump. Like, I would have expected him to establish himself at least at like a Braga. But again, like, I'm happy with his output here. Again, different context, different team around him, different mentality, different tactics, right? And they could fit him, right? And this could be the fit for him, right? And this could be who Chiquinho is. But I'm a believer that he's playing above his real capacity. And I think that a well put together squad with proper depth based in the context of what Benfica can afford and should be able to do, I don't think Chiquinho is a player that would even be on the bench. But again, that's just my opinion.
I agree with Mike. I think Chiquinho is playing out of his mind this year. I think he found a good sweet spot in the team this year.
In a sweet spot that he basically, it was basically like they had to make it work, right? And fortunately, it worked.
But I mean, I can even say one thing. Like, I actually, and this is just me saying my honest opinion. I don't think anyone else needs to agree with me or not. I think João Neves is a better player at this point than Chiquinho. And I've only seen
but you like
again,
Roger.
It's my opinion. You guys want to shoot.
You like Roger Schmidt, right? Like, everybody likes to hear Roger Schmidt, right? But he's sitting Florentino over Chiquinho on this.
Florentino's been gassed.
Yeah,
I feel like,
dude. But he's sitting Florentino, who's supposed to be like
two different types of players.
But I also think it, like, he's sitting him. He's sitting Tino in games that we're gonna have the majority of possession, right? Like, we haven't had a game where Tino sat where it's like, all right, it's gonna be like a 50-50 type of thing where we're gonna need Tino to break up the attacks, and it's a like.
Wait, so what do you consider Braga?
I think Tino starts against Sporting.
What do you consider Braga?
I think
Braga, we had all the possession.
Sporting,
no, dude, Braga's not a team. When you go into a play in the Braga, you don't think you're gonna have all the possession.
Correct, but we played at home. Do you think if that game is in Braga, he starts Tino on the bench?
I don't know, man, because right now,
do you think Tino sits on the bench Sunday?
If we have to win, yes.
I don't think he.
I think it's Tino and Neves in the middle.
I think Tino and Neves. I agree.
I mean, you don't touch a winning team. You don't. Right now, we're winning. We're refreshed. Looks like we're fresh. Let's play, because we don't play midweek. We just play at the weekend. We're fresh. A winning team is a winning team. Don't touch it.
Like, how many games have Tino sat? Has Tino sat?
The last 3, 4?
No, he played like 2 weeks ago. Hold on, I got the stats here. Florentino.
with Chiquinho, I also think
Tino's been probably one of the players that played the most minutes all season.
He alternated. So let's see, minutes wise. In this season, Tino is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th. Audi, Grimaldo, João Mario, Otamendi, Tony, and Tino.
So I mean, since the losses to Inter and all that, it's been only one game that he start since we tied Inter. Other than that, it's been Chiquinho and Neves.
And what were those games?
There was Estoril against Benfica
at home, right?
At home.
That's
an offensive game.
Gil Vicente away.
Another offensive game.
And that's when Tino started.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
you're not done. You're not done.
Right, so the concept of being offensive, defensive doesn't matter because right there he just started Tino. And then Benfica home against Braga.
Yeah.
Neves started in Chiquinho. And then Portimonense, Benfica away. Neves and Chiquinho started. So he has no offensive, defensive, because against Gil Vicente, you're going to have the ball anyway.
And maybe he's just rotating these guys, and Tino's been gassed the last few games, like probably gassed, and he was like, let me give this kid a break. I don't know.
I think he plays Sunday with Jon Snow.
I do as well.
Time will tell. Sunday we'll find out.
You talk about riding the players that got you there. Tino is one of those guys that got you.
I get it. But against Gil Vicente, he didn't start, but guess who got us that win? Oh, yeah. It was ahead of Chiquinho.
Oh, yeah. The first goal. Yeah. And he had just come in. That might have been his first touch.
It was.
That was a crucial win because Gil Vicente just beat Porto not too long ago. And Gil Vicente was out. We were having a hard time scoring in that game.
But Gil Vicente also hadn't won a game in like 7 weeks. They couldn't score a goddamn goal. So they were struggling as well.
But Oscar, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong on Chical. I just think I kind of agree with Mike where he is playing out of his mind. And if next year he comes and plays the way he has, then I'll admit I was wrong. But I just feel like this year he's playing out of his mind. And he's not making a lot of mistakes.
Right, but if we think
so that's the thing. I think with Chiquinho in the system, right, what Roger's asking him to do is kind of bringing out the best in him, right? He's asking him to play easy, right? He's not being asked to play like the through balls that Enzo is doing. I think that's why Neves has been flourishing. I think Neves does that very well. I think those long balls and like the little flicks over the top, like he does that very well, and that's something that Enzo shined at, right? And I think with Chiquinho, he's being asked to just, if we get possession, keep it, right? Control the pace of the game, slow it down, keep the ball. Like, don't.
He's like a João Mario.
To play those, right. He's not being asked to play those like through balls in. He's not being asked to score 20 goals a season, right? He's just get the ball, keep it, dictate the pace of the game, slow it down if we have to. Just keep the ball, don't lose it. And
he knows how to follow his role. He knows how to do his role.
Right, and the role he's being asked to do is bringing out the best in him.
And he doesn't try to extend himself, which I think is the key piece, right? Like he knows what he can and can't do.
Exactly.
And I think under Roger, try to extend themselves.
Under Roger, we could see Chiquinho having a pretty decent role next season, right? Like, like if that's all he's looking for out of him, like he's could be a very useful bench player, right? To come in and if someone gets hurt, fill in the role and just don't go out above and beyond. Just keep the ball, dictate the pace, and that's it.
You know what Chiquinho reminds me of? You know the Paulo Ferreiras of soccer, like nothing fancy about Paulo Ferreira. Paulo Freire from the right back from Porto, right? Yeah. Like nothing fancy about him. The guy, like your coach tells him, like, "Hey, learn this math problem and go to this field and do it." And the fucker will follow the T, right?
Every time.
A lot of coaches like these kind of players. Like you know your role. This is what you have to do. Go do it. Instead of like a Tarapt. Hey, you're a midfielder, but he's fucking spinning and throwing elbows all over the place, right? Like that you can't teach them.
But you talk about that, but Tino doesn't say like what does Tino does his homework, does his math problem too. Yeah, but for example, does his math problem. He destroys the game and does a simple pass.
He does. A lot of times he does, but a lot of times he holds the ball and then he's slow on moving it forward, and then he loses, and there's a mistake, and then that comes a counterattack. But
I also think a lot of that, like for the Tino thing, right? A lot of that was coming out after Enzo left, right? when Tino started, like we started seeing Tino playing long balls and trying to switch the field.
Correct.
Maybe he was being asked to do something that he like it's just not in this locker, right? Like it's just not part of his game. Because at the beginning of the season,
he did the simple stuff.
I think a lot of us were saying Tino might like there was a whole little sound talk. Does he deserve a spot on this little sound? And I think he was right there. He just we have so many players in that position that he wasn't ever going to take.
No chance.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm saying. Like quality wise and playing wise to the start of the season, he was there. It's just who are we going to remove from that squad to take his spot, like for him to take a spot.
But if somebody got hurt, he probably would have been one of those guys.
Correct, but I think he's like third or fourth down the totem pole.
Yeah, but
very serviceable. They have very, very good players in that position.
Correct. That's what makes it tough. I just want to run through some of these comments and give a shout out to some of these people. So, Joaquim Oliveira, hello to you. Chico Marcelino, abraço para ti. Alzinda Miranda, Tiago, uma boa noite. Chico Marcelino, back with us as always. Fabio's jumping in these comments with us. Our buddy Dave Pereira, Braga fan, he asks, has Tino improved from August to now? What do you guys think?
I think he got tired.
I mean, he's the only center defensive mid that we have.
I would say he has improved from August now, and I agree with Oscar. I think he's like hit a wall, and I mean, if you look at the last two seasons when he was loaned out, he never played. Right, he didn't have a lot of minutes, and this is all of a sudden coming back and being our fifth or sixth player with the most amount of minutes. Like, yeah, it's expected that he's going to get hit a point of season where he's going to be gassed.
I agree with everyone. I think he's gassed, but let's just say last year at this point, none of us thought he would even make the team. I mean, I thought that he should be brought back to team. So all of you guys said that he doesn't even have a spot. He proved to be in a spot in the starting 11. I think he's improved like a lot this year. Personally, I think he's improved. I think he's upped his game. And I'm expecting him to do another improvement next year as well.
Jay, I think, and I agree with you. That guy stepped in and played a major role this season, but I don't think we had any option.
And I'm glad we didn't, because he was the best option for it.
No, but he didn't have any other option this year. And thank God
to start.
We had Meite.
Who the fuck is that?
We sold him. But there's a few comments in here that I think make sense, right? So first, Chico Marcelino says Chiquinho stats are even worse than Tarap. He can't score or assist if his life depended on it. Oscar mentioned, right, the goal against Gil Vicente. Again, those are goals that you pull a rabbit out of a hat, right? Like you don't see Chiquinho doing headers in the box, right, or scoring goals like that's a pure striker's header.
But he's not being asked to do that.
You don't see Tino doing that because it's center defensive mid. But I think what he's saying is Chiquinho's not. I mean, Tarat, let's be honest. Tarat didn't score goals either, right? Like he didn't give us goals, right? So like two different.
I don't know if
players.
anyone's stat of losing possession is going to be worse than Tarat. I don't think that's possible. I agree with that.
Fabio says, I still think Chiquinho can't be a starter or maybe even a bench player. He's playing right now because there's no better option at this moment. And then he also says Tino's liability on the ball, so Schmidt's preferring the other players because we have the majority of possession on all the league games. And I want to follow that up with Chico's comment, which says Tino struggles like hell when he's being pressured constantly. If he can't find a quick pass, he most likely loses the ball since he can't dribble anyone. And this is one of the frustrations that people have had with Tino is he needs to get the ball and get rid of it quickly, right? He's not a guy that's going to play a long pass. He's not going to split the lines. He's one of those guys that needs to be like a Feja, right? Like, get the ball and give it like hot potato. Give it to someone and let someone else deal with it, right? And he's right? As soon as there's a little bit of pressure on Tino, he gets a little bit flustered and he tends to make the wrong decision with the pass. But if he has time, right, he's able to pick that pass and make the right decision. It's just in that moment, right? Like they're saying, like Fabio said, I think with João Neves and Chiquinho, you have a little bit more certainty with the ball in possession than maybe if there's pressure on someone like Florentino, which naturally, because of his position, he's maybe not as comfortable with the ball at his feet. I'm assuming that's part of the theory with him alternating them, but it'll be curious to see what he does on Sunday because, will we have a soft midfield with João Neves and Chiquinho against someone like Ugarte, right? Like a guy that's going to run through walls.
And Sporting plays a 3-midfield.
That's why you need Tino to play.
Correct. Yeah, and so we'll get there. Chico says he's a ball-winning player, and everything he does is mediocre. I agree, right? Like, and this is what I was saying about Chiquinho, right? Like, I think he wins balls back. He's secure in possession, but I think he's punching above his weight class this season. I hope that he proves us all wrong in the offseason and comes back next season and is a fundamental player to the team. I hope he's not a starter, because that would mean that we didn't bring in any reinforcements, adequate reinforcements in the midfield. But if he's a squad player, right, and he's able to compete the way he is this year, then I think that's great depth, right? And someone that knows the system.
I'm going to ask you. So if we become champions this year, right? Like, even if he's a starter next year, what's the big problem? We're champions, and we're a championship with him as a starter.
If you
because we're champions, you don't sit on the same squad. You always look the strength.
I'm going to ask you this.
And if you look the strength in the squad, if you look at the 11, right, to say this, the starting 11, who's most likely your weakest point,
right?
Or weaker points,
playing right now.
What's the one area that you would reinforce? Obviously, left back.
Exactly.
Now you're looking at the names. I'm not looking at the names. Playing wise right now, Chiquinho's performing a lot better than some of the players.
But what I'm saying
right now
is
performing better than João Mario.
If Benfica wants to
João Mario play like dog shit.
If Benfica wants to compete at the highest level, I'm sorry, but we can't have a Chiquinho being a regular starter in Benfica. I'm going to ask you this: if Enzo's in Chiquinho's spot in the Champions League, do you think we could have done better against Inter?
The whole team,
a player of that quality.
The whole team folded. I don't know.
I'm not talking about the whole team. I'm asking you: do you think Benfica had a better chance with a player of the level of Enzo?
I don't know, because it never happened. I don't know.
But
you know the answer to the
question. Yes, Benfica would have a better.
You know the answer to the question. You're just being difficult.
Yes, he doesn't want to answer it. He knows it. He doesn't want to answer it.
It's simple. Bill, it's simple. Do I think Enzo's a better player than Chiquinho? Yes. Do I think the Benfica had a better chances to win the Champions League the way we played against Inter the first game? Probably not.
No, but what I'm saying is if we have an Enzo in that squad throughout the whole season instead of a Chiquinho, the way that we saw Benfica playing,
the season would have won by now.
But so that's what I'm trying to say, right? Like, if we have a player with a better quality, we could have lost by more goals, right? Like, it's hypothetical, right? But what I'm saying is, on paper, if you want to compete with the big dogs, you need to have big dogs in your team, right? And you need to have 3 or 4 good top quality players, right? And I think I'm of the opinion that if I look at the team, if there's an area that I want to reinforce with a good quality player, I think obviously left back because Grimaldo's leaving, and I would say center mid, right? Because you're not going to compete for the big titles with João Neves and Florentino and Chiquinho. I'm sorry.
We need 2 center midfields, one a defensive midfielder and a center midfielder. We need that. That's 100% needed. But if you're talking about big dogs, right? Can Abili remind me how many games Chelsea's won since Wenzel got there? Because he's a big dog, went to a big team. So it's hypothetical. You don't know how they're going to do.
Sleep on Jon Snow.
No, Jon Snow's going to be
good. Sleep on. But he's only 18. He's balling out.
Again, if Benfica doesn't, if Chiquinho's a starter next year, he either really balled out in the offseason and proved a lot of people wrong, or Benfica failed in that department and they didn't feel like it was an urgent matter. Where I think if he's a starter next year, I'm concerned that it's not going to be enough. In my opinion, I think that it won't be enough.
I think we need 2 players from the midfield as well.
That's what I said. We do. We need to get 2 players.
We need Tino's backup.
But how do you go get a player, right? Like, can we all agree that Chiquinho is an average player? Like, in general, he's an average player.
I also think Florentino's an average player. Okay,
but so now I'm going to ask you, if Benfica is going to go get reinforcements, who do you go get? Like, you're going to have to go get a mediocre player to be his backup.
Right.
No, but Mike, you have to get a good player that can play better than Chiquinho when the chances is given, right? To take Chiquinho out. The same reason I don't agree with the guy the what the fuck is it? The late guy that replaced Vlaco Dimos, because Vlaco Dimos didn't do anything to deserve him to be put aside. And then he proved himself to be better than the late guy, right? So in this case, get a fucking phenomenal player. Get an Enzo Fernandez to come into the midfield. But then Chiquinho has to lose the spot.
Correct. And I'm not saying that he needs, right? Like, there's a whole preseason, right? And you need to prove yourself. Just like Ba and Gilberto, right? Gilberto started at the beginning
100%.
and Ba grew it. I'm not saying that Chiquinho has to be ripped out straight away, right? He's earned it.
Yeah, that's fine.
But what I'm saying is, I think we need to buy a player of a higher quality.
Enzo caliber, yes.
And he needs to prove it. And if Enzo is doing that competition and saying, listen, I think you're better than me, but you're not going to take my spot easily.
Right.
Perfect. That's great competition within the squad. But if we go get a player with the expectation that Chiquinho is our automatic starter, then now you're like, okay, we need a mediocre player because he's our automatic starter. So who the hell are you going to get to bring in on the bench, right? So I agree with you. I don't think he needs to be ripped out because he's earned it, right? But I think we need to aim for something higher to then prove that he deserves to be in there instead of Chiquinho. Yep. What else did we have here in terms of comments?
I can name you a player that plays at Renewal that's better than Chiquinho. Google.
You just said Chiquinho's playing out of his mind. How are you going to stop?
But he said he's playing over his weight class, which
he's playing out of his mind. Yeah,
until he stops doing
but
that.
He's still an average. So he's playing out of his mind, but he's still an average player.
Yeah.
Jay, now I'm going to say it straight up to you. Last year Ramos sucked. This year he's playing out of his mind. So is he an average player, or is he just playing above his caliber, above his level?
I think he's playing above, but it's a different conversation for a different day.
Dude, you guys,
you just said the same thing about Ramos can be said against Chiquinho, having a great year. So what? Next year,
Ramos played out of position last year.
Let's not give him a chance.
I agree with that, Jay. He did play out of position.
Ramos played out of position last year.
Oh my god! And Chiquinho was playing a fucking a wing last year.
Okay. But he played wide at Moreirense
his entire career.
Yeah, but Zicovic played as a winger, and then he played Jorge Jesus played in the midfield, and that's when he shined.
Different context, different tactics, different style.
And also Ramos was 20 years old, and now he's 21. So he's like a player
that experience of 1 year.
That 1 year.
Sounds like already in this
time.
That 1 year, dude. Já toca a punheta e tudo.
Já bateu punheta na internet.
Whatever it is, it's working. He should probably do it more often.
Before the game. Let's see. Fabio says he agrees with Bill. I don't remember what he agreed with, but Bill, you got someone that agrees with you.
I think it was the Chiquinho not being a starter.
Chico says, I think we also need another creative player like Ned. He's the only one that skills to open, close defensive teams. I agree. He says Sheldrup still looks green as hell. Josuino Resende, Força Benfica, abraço para ti, Josuino. Quickly to close this one out. Man of the match against Portimonense. Who wants to go? João Neves won it, according to Sport TV. Do you guys agree?
I hold on a second. I think I was going to give it to Grimaldo.
I'll say it. João Neves definitely deserved it. I thought he played out of his mind. I thought he was the best player for Benfica. So that's my opinion.
I'll go with Grimaldo. He scored early, opened the game up, and he had some phenomenal plays in that game. And I'll give it to Grimaldo. I also agree. João Neves had a phenomenal game. So don't get me wrong, but I think Grimaldo shined a little bit.
Bill?
No, I agree. I think Neves, of the games he's played, this is probably his most complete game. I think we've seen him kind of fall off in games a little bit, but this game, I think from the jump, he nailed the post. I thought that was in right at the beginning. But I think he played really well, and I think his ability to kind of see those long balls or play that final ball is what is kind of standing out right now.
Agree. Goal point.
Before we move, can we give a shout out to freaking Freddie guy?
Yeah.
Dude, this guy playing right back.
Next position has to be a goalkeeper. That guy plays every fucking.
Oh, hold on. I'm gonna call you out here. Weren't you the one like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago that said, why are we playing him at right back when we have right backs on the bench?
No.
Was it you? I could be wrong. I'm not being.
No. It wasn't me. It wasn't me that said that, but
it might have been in our WhatsApp group. Somebody might have said
it would have been something I would say too, because we have.
It's something I would say.
100%.
I didn't say it, but I would say it.
This guy is shown that he can. It's like what he's doing. What Schmidt's doing right now is just do zero with Quentrão. Like put a guy that's a winger.
He legit is like your utility player.
He's a freaking Swiss Army knife.
Every single position the guy does to the fucking peak.
What's next? Central. I think the only thing he's missing is Central and goalie.
I still perform in the midfield, but
I do too. But having a player that can play at this level in a variety of different positions gives you so many options.
Yeah. That's insane.
And I think in games like this where we're going to have the majority of possession, like I think it makes it a little bit easier because he pushes up and he's like another midfielder, right? Like we don't have to worry about defending too much. But I mean, I think it was on Twitter. Someone compared his tackle to the Samadas tackle from I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, where against Porto, where he took the ball away right at the fucking PK spot. Yep. And he had one this weekend where it was the same thing. It was like a goal if he wasn't there. But the guy works his tail off no matter where he is.
He's a contender for MVP too for this game.
Just quick, because I know Mike wants to recap this as quickly as possible. But do you guys like him as a winger? Because I don't.
I mean, tactically he lines up as a midfielder, but he doesn't play there. Like if you look at even Joe Matti, like
he's everywhere.
Unless Neds is playing, we don't really have a winger, right? Like he doesn't go to the line and put crosses in. He plays on the inside, and then gives us width. And defensively, he helps us inside. So, do I like him there? No, because he's not a Neds, right? He's not a guy that's going to take people on, right? When you think of a winger, you think of someone like a Rafa or a Neds that's going to go at guys, beat you, go to the line, and cross it in. But I think based on our system, it works because we compact the midfield. Him and Joe Matti come inside. Gives a little bit of freedom for Rafa to kind of roam and go wherever the hell he wants.
And our wingers to go up and down.
Correct. And then you got Ba and Grimaldo that can get up and down the line, right? But if you have guys like Gilberto and, someone of that equivalent on the other side that doesn't have pace, isn't able to get up and down that line, right? Auschwitz becomes a little bit less useful out there because, right, he's coming inside. Now you got one guy that you're expecting to do that whole line and he can't. Right, whereas Ba and Grimaldo are capable of getting up and down constantly. So, do I like him there? No. Does he make it work? Yes. Would I prefer him in the center mid? 100%.
Okay, I agree with
Oscar,
that.
you guys agree?
Yeah, no, I agree. I love the Sheik comment, the last one.
Where does that Schmidt asked Fred what was his favorite position, and his answer was yes. All of the above. Sheik says his MVP was either David Neves. Damn, dude, that confused the shit out of me. David Neves or João Neres. Foda-se, que confusão. I had to read that.
Neres had a pretty good game, too.
He did. He did have a good game. He's definitely growing. Goal point had Rafa as an 8.6, was the highest. João Neves a 7.5. Gonçalo Ramos an 8.1. Grimaldo an 8.0. Those were the highest ones. So another win, important win. Next topic I wanted to jump on. Grimaldo announced this week that he has finalized an agreement with Bayer Leverkusen. Financially, he's going to be making post-tax 3 times what he's making at Benfica. I think I saw something like 416,000 a month or something like that. So he's making 3 times what he's making at Benfica. Wanted to get your thoughts. I know that you guys mentioned some comments in our chat. I didn't jump in the conversation because I wanted to kind of leave it for this conversation. But Jay, I know you were very vocal. I think you're the one that actually shared the picture on our group chat. What are your thoughts on his decision? And I think I could be wrong, but I think the more the frustration isn't necessarily about the decision, but maybe the timing. But what were your thoughts?
That is the only thing I have an issue with. Like I already kind of, after that interview I think he had last week or a couple of days.
They released it last week,
I think. I already, from that conversation, I already knew he was gone. I knew he wasn't going to resign. Usually if a player hasn't re-signed by like midway through the season, he's usually gone. I'm just pissed off that we have 2 weeks left and you go out of your way and you go fucking hold up another jersey and you sign with them when the season's still going on and we have something to fight for, right? And we have a derby, a Lisbon derby. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I appreciate everything Grimaldo has done for Benfica, the player that he was. I was always I criticized him a lot. I think that he wasn't the greatest defender, and he let a lot of goals happen on his end, on his side. But going forward, I thought he was one of the best left backs probably in the world going forward. I just really, most of my frustration was on the timing. I feel like, why the fuck couldn't you just wait 2 more weeks to sign this contract? you could probably have it signed and not talk about it or bring it up until after the season.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority, but to me, it rubbed me the wrong way. Thank you for your time here at Benfica. Now go fuck yourself after
that. Grimaldo has 301 appearances for Benfica since he joined. He is 27 years old, product of Barcelona, 26 goals, 65 assists in those 301 games, which is, 90, just under 100 contributions to goals out of 301 appearances, which is pretty good for a left back. Bill, thoughts on this situation?
I agree with what Jason said. I think the move itself is surprising, right? Like,
are you surprised though?
I'm not.
Like,
I'm not either.
The money, once
take
you
the
hear
money
about
piece,
the money,
but take the money piece out of it. Are you surprised? If it was the same money, are you surprised
that he's going to Bayern Leverkusen? Yeah.
Why though?
I am.
It's a better league.
Yeah, but he's not. He's going to Bayern Leverkusen to fight for what? I mean, potentially a Europa League spot, a Europa League spot, or the European Conference League or whatever the fuck it's called. Like,
I think they're in the top 4, aren't they?
This was a money move for him.
This is 100%. Like, when I saw Leverkusen, I was surprised. So see the money, okay, like that I can see. Like, he's 27, he's looking at it like this is.
But do you think
probably my Dave, like payday contract?
I mean, he's 27. He potentially has one more. But Dave makes a comment here, which I was going to ask you guys. Spanish coach, right? Xabi Alonso is the coach there.
Xabi Alonso.
But apart from the money piece, right? Better league, hands down. More competitive, more visibility, and I'd be willing to bet he finally gets called up to the national team now that he's on Leverkusen.
I don't think agree? He does.
You don't?
No.
Really?
No.
I think he struggles in that league.
If he was to get called up, it would like.
Pedro Porro went to fucking Tottenham and he got called up to the national team.
But he was called up. He had been called up before when he was at Sporting.
Yeah, but do you think you would have kept getting called up if he didn't go to Tottenham?
Oh, who knows? I mean, Spuds fucking suck. I mean, he's probably better off staying at Sporting. But what most frustrates me is what Jason said, right? The timing of it all, right? Like, I agree. He could have signed anywhere starting in January, I think, right, or at the end of January after the transfer window. And it's just okay, sign the contract, but why go out of your way to who knows when he traveled to take the pictures and meet with the staff and all that shit at Leverkusen, but to then publish it or have it come out 2 weeks before the season ends and the week of the most important fucking game of your season, like the optics behind it doesn't look good and it's not a good look. And I hope it doesn't happen, but I can 100% see it happening because I know there's Benfiquistas out there that will boo him or give him shit for this announcement at the end of the season or before the season even over. But I think in all what he's done and for Benfica and what he's like his performance wise, I don't think he deserves it, but I can see it happening because of it being announced before the season was over and a season where we're 3 points away from the title. And I mean, he could have waited 2 more weeks. Like, why, what was the need to have it come out now? And I from the Leverkusen side and from his side, I just don't understand why, like what need was it to announce it after the game and it come out the week of our biggest game of the season.
Oscar, do you agree?
No, I mean, I'll echo Bill's words. I mean, to me, Grimaldo stayed 8 seasons. That's very uncommon for a player that comes in with his caliber. Like he's a really, really good player. Stayed 8 seasons at Benfica. Benfica had a chance to renew with him. Too much money. We couldn't hold him, and it was expected. Like we last year. 100%. Last year we talked about this. Like, is it worth letting him go now for $5 million or keeping him to win something and then let him go for free? It was already in the books. We're gonna keep him, and then basically the $5 million was giving it away because we're winning a championship, right? The only thing is the timing. the timing, even before we win anything, like we haven't won shit yet, right? So we could have waited one more week. Maybe we beat Sparty and then come out. So if I was to blame something, is maybe some news was leaked and then they had to kind of come out and say it. If that's like, blame Fabrizio, the guy from Twitter that fucking spills it all out. Maybe that's where it all started. The guy found out, he mentioned it, and then they had to come out and post a picture saying this is what happened. But it's not, the timing is not great, and I hope it doesn't affect the team. I hope, because right now, the coach has to make a big decision. Does Grimaldo, is he a liability? Is he not going to play to get hurt or not get hurt and all blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. It's a big call from the coach right now to see what he does.
I mean,
I feel like that liability would have been there from January, right?
Yeah,
I would have been
from January at that
if
point.
he signed in January.
No, what I'm talking about.
This contract has definitely been signed for at least a couple of weeks, right? So like, I don't think from a professionalism perspective, I don't think it'll impact him, because if anything, we would have already seen it, right? Like, there's no way that he signed 2 days ago and he announced, or like, I don't believe that he signed after the Portimonense game, right? I think this has been done already, for a while. Right? Like, so do I think professionally it'll impact him? I don't want to believe so, right? Like, you're on the cusp of being able to win another title and walk out, a champion at a club where you spent 8 years. I believe the last left back to play at Benfica that stayed that many years, I want to say was Álvaro Magalhães.
Oh wow!
I think he was the last one that stayed that many years, almost an entire decade at the club. I don't even think Contran was there that long. What, maybe 4 years?
No, yeah, Contran was
Leo,
like 3 or 4.
Leo was 3-4 years. Cicada was 3-4 years. 2 years. So I don't, right? I don't want to question his professionalism. I would like to assume that, right, he's going to go out on a high. He wants to go out on a high. At
and
a club where
he seems to be a hardcore Benfiquista, as from what the posts I see him.
And again, he's been here 8 years, right? So he knows what it takes and what the fans expect. I agree with you guys, right? Like, the timing. Did it have to be like they couldn't have waited 2 more weeks? It seems odd to me. Like, I feel like there had, like Oscar said, right? Like, was there something that happened that basically then forced their hand and was like, okay, we need to just come out with it now?
Yeah.
But I would like to think
those pictures of him with the staff at Leverkusen, like, that wasn't this weekend.
Correct.
Like, that
exactly.
that happened
a
while back, and it was just they were just waiting, and I mean, it potentially could have been something leaked, and that was it.
Yeah, and Chico says Veloso played left back too. Yeah, I want to say.
I mean, even if it was Veloso, it's still been an effective.
Well, Veloso was naturally a right back, but I want to say it was in that era that the last left back that was at the club for such a long time. But yeah, 2 games left. You can go out on a high. But I don't have any ill will towards him. We've had our frustrations with him. We've had our highs and lows. He's been a good servant.
Period.
He's been a good servant to the club. He'll go out at home in front of his fans, hopefully as a champion against Santa Clara. And again, he's one of those players that he pissed us off. He scored some bangers. Defensively, he wasn't what we all wanted, but offensively, he gave us a shit ton of opportunities. It'll be curious to see now who we get to replace him, right? They're talking about the kid from AZ Alkmaar. Mikey says in the comments here we should get Rafael Guerreiro, who's out of contract with Borussia Dortmund.
Do you guys think that he does good in the German league? Because I don't think I think he's going to get exposed. Like Mike said it right there in his comment as well. I think he's going to get. I don't think he's going to be that great.
Personally, I feel Grimaldo is going to get exposed in Germany for his lack of inconsistent defensively. He was inconsistent his entire time with Benfica hot and cold season. This was arguably his best season. I agree, but like Dave says, right? Xabi plays a 3-4-3.
Yeah, they play different
with the wing backs, right? So it kind of suits
perfect for that.
Yeah, right. Like, he's not really a left back, right? I think he's better suited to play a wing back position than a left back position. But
he reminds me a lot of Guerreiro. Like, even his physique, he's better going forward than he is defensively. And Guerreiro's been pretty good in Germany, so you never know.
Dave asks a question here: left to right, who are next season's defenders for Benfica?
Well, right now, I think we're going to get new players, but right now it'll be Rasic, right? The guy that's left back.
Yeah, I don't think he stays.
No, yeah.
But we're talking about right now. Who else we have?
So he's saying
I
for next season.
he's next season.
So
yeah.
I think
So
left back
season,
is a
I'm
question
guessing.
mark.
So
I'm
right back,
left back is going to be someone that we buy. It's going to be Tony. It's going to be Lucas Verissimo, and right back might be Bob.
So you think Otamendi ends up leaving?
Well, I don't think from what I heard, he's already signed with somebody in.
I was hopeful that he'd stay, but
you say Argentina.
I think he went back somewhere back home, right? From what
River Plate wanted him, but I saw that he wanted to stay in Europe another year.
All I know is some article in Argentina came out and said Otamendi is definitely leaving. So I don't know.
There's been a few in Portugal as well.
Yeah, and holding up a different jersey. That's all I know.
So you think Otamendi, or you think Tony and Lucas Verissimo?
Yeah, because I don't trust Morato. I don't.
Yeah. I think Lucas Verissimo gains his spot next year, and I think it's him and then we'll see how that goes. But to start, I think that's how it's going to be.
I think to start, he's going to start Morato, but to be
honest, to start, I think it's going to be Morato. I think unless
I think
Lucas Verissimo has a very good.
I think the only advantage Morato has is he's left-footed.
Left-footed, yeah.
He slots in easily to that left side.
If you think Otamendi and Tony, they're both right-footers.
Correct. But
you have Otamendi with the
experience.
Yeah. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
I think with the full preseason, I think Lucas Verissimo takes that spot. In my opinion.
I agree. I think he's our best. He's the best option there. Dave says the guy from Nantes, Jean Vitor. Do you guys think he comes
what happened
back?
To the final of the cup? We lost 5-1. I think didn't he get booed on least rated player on the field?
I don't remember. I didn't see.
Yeah, it was a final of the cup.
I mean, we haven't seen anything of him because he was got here hurt.
Correct. He got hurt. He came mid-season, so hopefully a preseason will help him. Rui says Kerkez from AZ Alkmaar.
Yeah,
rumors are that we have a deal with him.
I saw today it was like 10 mil, I think, is what I saw for Kerkez.
I didn't see. Sheikh Marcelino says Jean Vitor is our fastest center back. He is quick. Lucas Verissimo was pretty quick too, but again, post-injury, we don't know what to expect. But time will tell. Let's see what the preseason gives us. On the topic of running down contracts, Rafa's up. His contract's up at the end of next season. Do you guys see a similar situation here with Rafa walking out without renewing?
There's a difference. I don't think Rafa wants to go to outside of Portugal. I mean, his aspirations, I don't think are as high as Grimaldo. And the reason is he quit the Seleção. Seleção is the most exposure you can get is playing in a World Cup or Euro, right? And he quit that. So I don't think he wants to expose himself or go into a bigger club like a Manchester United or Liverpool, whatever it is. I think he's happy where he's at. And as long as they renew a decent amount of money, I think he'll stay. He's not like Grimaldo asking for a double or triple.
So he's like a João Pinto type player where he won't leave Portugal after.
Well, he never left. João Pinto left and came back.
Well, he never left after that. Like he got that exposure, and then he wanted to come back home.
Yeah, and Simão Sabrosa did the same thing. He came back home, and he's just at a prime.
So then you assume that he ends up renewing, right? Because where else would he go?
Yeah, I think
he renews.
Yeah,
I personally think he renews.
Bill, you think he renews?
I do. I'm just reading Chico's comment, but I do think he renews. I think he's one of those. I think this offseason, I think there's a few players that are up in the next year or two. I think, and I think we see a few of those guys resign this offseason.
Rui says Kerkez is a beast. Hungarian players are fighters. I've heard good things about him. I've not seen him. He plays for Feyenoord.
No, AZ Alkmaar.
Oh, AZ Alkmaar. Sheikh Marcin has an interesting comment here. I would let Rafa go and would sign Guedes if
that's
possible.
what I was reading. That kind of paused me for a second. But
if that was your option, would you guys do it?
I'd like to know why Chico thinks that. I mean, Guedes is injury prone, 100% injury prone. The guy gets hurt more than anybody on the Benfica team right now. So and he's done that his whole career. He did it at PSG. He did it at Valencia. He did it not too much at Wolverhampton because he doesn't play there much. But
I feel like let's say he played regularly.
Yeah, but he got hurt. He got hurt a few times. Like, why they let him go? They let him go because he was injured a lot of the time. So like, I don't think it's a good option. Benfica doesn't right now. Benfica he played 2 games, got hurt for 3 or 4, and then he came back.
Like, what's the price? Right, the price tag is the big factor, right? Like,
what if it's the same? What if it's the same?
There was I saw rumors.
No,
even swap,
same salary, same everything.
But it's not.
I'd probably take a chance with Gibbs.
You take Gibbs?
You have to buy him from Wolves. That's the problem. Like,
I have a love-hate relationship with Rafa, to be honest.
I saw rumors that Wolves was even open to loaning him out again next season.
Which I take him back.
I take him back on loan, 100%.
Yeah, that's
I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't take him off for Rafa.
Yeah, I mean, Rafa's obviously put up different numbers, right? And Geds, I don't know. Again, it's an incognito. But I'm surprised that that Oscar didn't opt.
No, I like Geds, but I like Geds playing, and Geds does not play all the time because he's always injured. So like, to me, that's not a feasible, even an option that I would take, because Rafa's a guy that plays consistently. It could be bad or good or bad, but plays consistently. Shows up a lot of the tough games. He shows up, like, he scored against Porto, the own goal that we won against Porto this away. It was Rafa last year with with João Felix. He scored 2. Like, he's a player that shows up in a lot of these big games. And I wouldn't trade him. I would not. Rafa is one of those players like Ronaldo.
I wouldn't call Rafa a big game player.
But he's showed up from big games, like this year.
He plays in the big games, but he doesn't. Sometimes
he's had some big goals. I mean, he had the goal against Porto when we won there 2-1 with.
And this year away,
he scored at Alvalade a few years ago, late in the game, like 88th minute.
With the Tribal against and this year against Porto away, we won 1-0.
Yeah, like, and Braga, the goal again. But I think Chico Marcelino makes a good comment here, which is Geds is younger than Rafa, also similar positions. Geds is injury prone, and Rafa is hyper inconsistent.
Yeah, but have we seen Geds be consistent too? Because he's always injured.
Fair.
He did at Valencia, but
I saw a few games when he played at Valencia, and he looked very consistent. He was the best player on the team.
I agree with that, but I saw a few games of Rafa Benfica. He was very consistent. Our best player.
Mikey says he scored against all big 3 in big games. I still hate Rafa. Mr. Need 20 chances to score 1. That's always been his criticism, right? Like, he's not a striker, and his decision making is terrible. But if his decision making increased even by like 10%, he would score so many goals because he creates so many goals.
When did Geds get loaned? Was it January? Or was it
January?
January, right? So how many goals does he have so far?
He missed half the second half of the season.
I think he has 1.
Yeah, because what? He's been injured.
And how many goals has Rafa scored the second half of the season?
So get the 2 goals.
The
2 goals in 14 games.
Rafa's gone on a very long cold streak.
Hold on, I got Rafa's numbers.
He did score that one against the one against Braga, right? So he scored.
Yeah, Rafa hadn't scored in the league since November.
Yeah.
Okay.
Against Braga was his first goal since November.
So you look. I'm not like I said. I have a love-hate relationship. I love the guy because he hustles and he makes plays. I fucking hate the guy because he can't fucking put the ball in the back of the net or make a decision in the final third sometimes.
Did you hate Ramos last year?
I am very surprised. I will say I am very surprised that an English Premier League team hasn't came and picked them up yet.
Which just makes you wonder, right? Like,
makes you wonder why players like Rafa, and I hate to bring him up, but like Peasy, why no one ever came and
I agree.
Ever picked up these guys.
I agree. I made the same comment when Manchester United came and got Bruno Fernandes. I made the same comment to someone because if you looked at that year, Peasy had better numbers than Bruno Fernandes had that year, and you never heard Peasy associated. And again, I'm not knocking Peasy, but what I'm saying is these guys have put numbers through the roof, and it makes you wonder, like, how come some of these big dogs don't come knocking? Or maybe they do and we don't hear about it.
They look for characteristics on a player, and PC probably didn't have the characteristics that Bruno Fernandes had.
That makes sense.
And when a scout comes to look at a player, they look, okay, I need this off this player. I need that, right? And PC probably didn't fit that.
And Rafa, I think, is the same way.
Right. And the thing is, like, Pizzi went to Atletico Madrid. He played at Atletico Madrid. He played in
I don't even remember. Did he do good there?
I mean, I think he scored a goal against Real Madrid, from what I remember, because I had the stats for Jason, I had a goal against.
He did.
He sucked and he came back home because he couldn't.
So did Simon suck?
He couldn't even handle it in fucking
Simon suck?
Qatar or whatever the fuck.
Simon suck because he came back home. He couldn't handle it.
Did go to
Simon's
Qatar.
our captain.
Was it Qatar or UAE?
Hey, remember, I picked Nico. I think
it was Qatar.
So
I think it was Qatar.
Let's see. We got a couple good comments in here. Nick says, "What's up, guys? Long time no chat. Number 38 coming soon. What's going on, Nick? Welcome back." Rui says, "Rafa has speed though." There's also Rui says, "Chico Fininho." Instead of Chico Marcelino, all in good fun, of course. It's crazy. Definitely keep Rafa. Guedes would be way too expensive. Obviously a salary, but he's homegrown, right? You would hope that if he wanted to come back and establish himself again, that he would take some sort of cut to make it realistic.
That transfer fee, though, wouldn't be
true, but it doesn't sound like Wolves are too sold on him. So
Gids' transfer fee has gone down because of
but it's still
high.
EPL, like.
Yeah.
Think about EPL transfers, even like shit players, like it's still going 15, 20 mil. Like it's not
Carlos
cheap.
Says Rafa has to be re-signed. Absolutely. Despite the roller coaster performance, he still has great value. Mikey says Guedes' best season was like 12 goals in one season. You want a guy just for his hustle that doesn't lead too much. Even when he's been healthy, Guedes isn't needed. Benfica's biggest need is a true 9 this offseason. Nick says Rafa is probably going to finish out the remainder of his competitive career here at Benfica and probably get one last payday in the Middle East and Asia. I can't see a bigger team coming in for him. He doesn't seem like the guy that has the mindset to go to a Middle East or Asia. Like he just seems so.
I could see him. He could just retire at Benfica.
Not even a team from Spain or Italy.
I mean, he's got a tattoo on him that says trust issues. You think he's going to go to the Middle East?
Clubs are coming after him, and that surprises me.
Yeah, I agree.
Guarantee his agent probably hears and he just says, no, I don't want it.
You know what's funny is I was just looking at his agent. So his agency is called On Soccer. And of their portfolio, Rafa is by far the most market value. So he's number one with a 23 million market value, according to Transfer Market. And then on their portfolio, they have players like Andrés Silva from Guimarães, Elton Leite, Fabio Ronaldo, who's at Rio Ave, Quaresma, the left back from Aroca. And like they don't have any like big name players, which makes me wonder, right? Like if Rafa was, his agent was like
George Mendes,
like
he'd be gone
100%. So like I wonder if that also has an impact in it. But then again, right? Like I think that also potentially shows what Rafa's interest is, right? Like because you see guys, Gonçalo Ramos just switched agents, right? I think he's Jorge Mendes now as of last summer, right? Because these guys want to move elsewhere and big paychecks, and Rafa is just like with, you know, this agency that's, you know, down the street.
Down the street.
They got a couple of guys.
He's gonna get a 4-year deal with Benfica, and then after that, he's gonna go play at Studio for a year. After that, he's gonna play at Stubble for a year. Then he's gonna probably play at Portimonense for a year.
Rafa's a player that'll play probably not resign for like 4 years, play those 4 years, and then probably retire.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah. I could see that too.
There are some guys that just
that tattoo that he got. Remember mid-season? We're making fun of his tattoos.
Trust issues.
He's giving me trust issues right now with him.
There are some guys that just don't have any like interest in leaving. Home, right?
And he definitely seems like one of those.
I think he's Spanish. He played for
Atletico Bilbao, I think.
He played for City, and then now he's at Sevilla. Navas, Navas.
Yeah. And there's the kid that
he's publicly talked about like his struggles about like even going to City, like the struggles of leaving home.
There's a kid that's at Real Sociedad who's a lot of people are after him. I don't know what his name is, but he said he has no interest in leaving Real Sociedad.
Yeah, I think there's just players.
Yeah.
I wish Enzo was like
that. Yeah, he don't care.
Mercenary.
Sheik says Rafa's getting older. As soon as he loses his speed, he will be a banal player. Since his decision making is below average. Mikey says Simão is better than Pizzi. Dave says he'll go to Betis or come home to Braga. I could see him finishing his career, but is he from Braga? I'm not even sure. Is he from that area? Dave might know.
I'm not sure where he's from.
He's from Place of birth is Forte da Casa. Dave, is that next to Braga? Because I've never heard of that place.
Fucking, they should be all Google Maps.
He was in the Formosan with Braga, wasn't he?
No, I don't know. I don't know if he
was
came through the system.
Povoense, Alverca Youth, Alverca, Feirense, Sporting Braga in 2013. So Forte da Casa is a town and former civil parish in the municipality of Vila Franca de Xira, Portugal, which is located. Let me see what Google Maps tells me. Google Maps can't reach the internet for this. Can't bring it up. If it's in the area of Feirense, then Feirense, I believe, is Santa Maria da Feira, which is next to Porto. But him being in Alverca as a kid, right? Obviously, that's in the Lisbon area. So
that's Benfica. Wasn't Alverca part of Benfica?
Yeah, that's where Luis Vieira came from. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I know that we're running tight on time, so we're not going to be able to cover all the topics, but quickly, we got 2 minutes. Expectations, Rui Marx says north of Lisbon is where he's from. Oscar, I'll start with you. I'll go around the table here. And those of you who are tuning in, let us know your thoughts. Sporting, Benfica, Sunday. What are your expectations for this game, Oscar?
I hate to be the guy that thinks negative.
The realist?
No. With these games,
you do this all season.
With these games, it's always like it's not the best team that wins them. It's always like the team that's like there's always a surprise. There's always the team that's doing worse that comes out on top. And I hope that's not the fact this time around. When we're playing against a team that just lost their goalie, the starter goalie, which is, Adan to Sporting is crucial because I don't know who the backup is, but the backup can't be that great. So we have a good chance of going there and getting those 3 points. But for some reason, I'm like I feel a tie, and I feel like the last game is going to be the title is going to be decided in the Luz against Santa Clara.
Would you rather? Mikey says 2-1 for Sporting. Rui Mark says 2-3 with John Neves with the winner. Oh my God, Jay would lose his mind if Jon Snow scored the winner.
Jon Snow, baby!
Oscar, would you prefer? I guess I'll ask you, and then I'll go around. Oscar, would you prefer winning it at the Alvalade Stadium, or would you prefer winning it at home in the last game with our fans?
If it's a guarantee win at home with our fans,
I'm asking you, would you prefer?
I rather win it at home, right? But I don't trust our team this year to win it at home. I don't trust it to be under pressure and going to in Santa Clara and beating them, right? So I'd rather win it in the Sporting Stadium because it's down the street. They're probably the same distance to the fucking Marquês. So might as well win it there and go celebrate the Marquês. And then have them shut the lights on us.
How much shit do Portistas give us for that, right? And we can fucking turn around and win it at the fucking toilet bowl. Give me a break, dude.
Yeah, but then win it all. You're gonna celebrate with the stadium is gonna be empty.
That's the thing.
Who cares?
But starting to lose the fest, the whole stadium packed. Imagine that.
And just think about the recent titles that we've won at the Estádio da Luz. We beat Guimarães at home. I think we beat Santa Clara at home one of the years too. Like, I think it just adds a different element to that last game. Rui says win it at the toilet behind Bill. Nick says if I can pick, I would always pick to win the championship against a rival, home or away. I mean, obviously it adds a completely different element, especially a same city rival. Jay, what do you think?
So I'm actually happy Oscar thinks that we're not going to win it because he's been wrong a lot lately, especially, I don't want to just talk about what the stuff that he's been wrong about, but I think that we are going to clinch the championship. I don't know if we're going to tie and win and Porto's going to do something on there. I think we will be champions this Sunday.
We win. Benfica wins at Alvalade.
Who does Porto play this weekend?
It doesn't matter. Porto's got
it's
fixtures.
And they're already saying that they're missing players, a bunch of shit. I don't know.
Famalicão is?
Yeah.
Surprise.
Just for that reason, I'm very happy that Oscar said what he said. And that just makes me gain even more. That just gain more confidence that we're going to be champions.
I
appreciate that, Oscar. Thank you very much.
This year,
and I hope to see you on Sunday and we can celebrate together.
This year, I've only predicted one loss for Benfica this whole season. Okay, and so if I've been wrong a lot, then Benfica
was it against PSG?
No, the only
no.
you
missed. See, you're
Porto.
not listening.
I think he predicted a loss against
You're
Porto.
not listening to the words I'm saying. I said lately you've been wrong a lot
about Tatum.
No, like I said, I didn't want to discuss anything with you. I didn't want to bring up anything, any examples. I just didn't want to bring any examples up. But you
didn't want to bring the receipts, dude.
But I just want to say you've been wrong lately, and hopefully this continues a trend that it's going to continue on. That you're going to be wrong, and we're going to celebrate together. We'll cheers on the phone and everything, buddy.
I hope so.
And in 2 weeks we can celebrate at Kenny's wedding and fucking go nuts.
Oh yeah.
So just so I'm not wrong again. Let's hope nobody chokes.
Yeah, lucky we don't have Peasy there to choke, so we're good.
Bill, what are your expectations for Sunday?
I think we win. I think with the title literally at your fingertips, I think the form we've been in lately, I don't see that changing. I think we go into that game, and I think Sporting losing their number one keeper is a big loss, and I think Benfica wins. I think it's a game where we control the game, and if we are able to score early, then it's a game that we don't ever stress about.
Also, don't forget that this game, Benfica could not only win the title at the Estádio da Alvalade, Benfica could also mathematically knock Sporting out of the Champions League.
Patrice Bergeron
in this game.
I've never noticed that.
Rui Mark says, has anyone noticed that Oscar looks like Patrice Bergeron?
Hey,
I see a little bit.
Mike, can we get a side-by-side here?
Seriously, let me see if I can get a Patrice Bergeron picture.
Really?
I've never looked at it that way.
Let's see.
I don't even like
Bergie.
Hey, to be honest, Oscar, it's comparable.
I see it a little bit now. Yeah.
I'm not a choker though.
Let me see if
he won a championship. So how is he a choker?
He choked this year.
You never won a championship.
I won a championship. Premium State, baby.
Premium State.
Fucking indoor. We got a few.
What the hell? I can't pull this picture out. Let's see.
Oscar could probably look like Peasy too.
Best player on the field.
Best
no
player.
Chance.
I see it a little bit. Yeah.
Yo, get a picture of Patrice with a bigger beard or something.
Yeah, I'm the better looking guy though.
Oscar doesn't have a beard, dude. Oh, he does. He's got the 5 o'clock shadow. I mean, he's got a 5 o'clock shadow here.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see it.
I see it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
We're gonna start calling you Patrice.
Hey, Patrice, how you doing?
It's a good shout by Rui. Dave says, calma, deixa o pizza em paz. Rui says it's
pizza.
scary.
He said pizza. They should pizza in paz.
Oh, pizza, yeah. Autocorrect. Bergie Championship, Oscar Chocolate Chip. What the hell does that even mean?
I don't know.
I win a chocolate chip challenge and he wins
another.
Carlos says 2-0 for Benfica, and Jason Marks says Sporting fans all cagados. I mean, being a Sporting fan, right? One, you can get knocked out of the Champions League. Two, you have the fear of Benfica going and winning in your back door. In your backyard. Back door sounds a little dirty.
You must hate life if you're a Sporting fan, man. I feel bad for you.
You have joy every 20 years.
Carlos says never leave it to the end. Finish it when you can. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree too with that.
But I agree that I think winning it at home would also be a pleasant thing.
Mike, you don't want to see like the whole game. They're all painted. Their hair is painted red, and the fans are just fucking waving their flags. We already had the championship won.
Yeah, but then it takes the excitement out of that game.
Yeah,
I hope we don't do that because I used to hate when fucking Porto used to do that shit constantly. I know. It's so fucking dumb.
Unfortunately, we've not been able to do it too often. But no. All right, that is it for tonight. Thank you to everyone that was in the chat. We had some new names, some reoccurring names, so we appreciate all of you jumping in. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the various social media platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, give this video a like, a thumbs up. We would appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Facebook, we just surpassed 34,000 subscribers or followers this month or this week.
Let's hit 38 before Sunday.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be great. But yeah, don't forget to share, like, subscribe. As always, thank you for joining us. If you're listening after the fact, check us out on the various social media platforms. Gentlemen, as always, a pleasure. Sunday, hopefully we can have our first title since the inception of this podcast. We need one desperately. And we will be back next week, hopefully with 38 up in the rafters, as they would say here in the US. Have a good evening. And all, of course, Viva o Sport Lisboa e Benfica. Good night, gentlemen.
Later, boys.